This is the Week 15 Fantasy Football Podcast, featuring Jonathan Keith and Tyler Harnish.
Week 15 listeners, welcome back. Some crazy stats coming at you again this week. I love diving into these numbers. We've been trying to make every episode a little bit different and focus on different stats. This one is going to blow your mind. Another underrated category as we look at the playoffs, which is just a few weeks away. I know eliminations are rampant after week 12, and I've felt that wrath in a couple of my leagues. Don't really want to talk about it. I'm hurting from it. But as always, we're going to start this thing off with a win. Tyler, give me a win.
Thanksgiving is come and gone. It was a great weekend. I typically have at least 3 Thanksgivings a year, one with my dad, one with my mom, and then one with the in-laws. So it was just a great weekend to see all of the family in consecutive days, catch up with the siblings on both sides, the in-laws. Just a good time to be with family, and now we're back at work, Johnny.
Yep. Had to go back to school today. 5 days. We had 5 days off.
We did.
It was a fun 5 days. Enjoyed spending that time with my family. And then it felt like it just went by so fast. And then we go back into school today. And I thought, you know what? I'm ready for Christmas break.
Three more weeks and we get to do it all over again.
I got 4 left. But no, it's I had a good day at school today, too. My class was easy. But my win, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Our house comes alive during Christmas. My wife does a great job of decorating it, and it's just the layout of the house with the fireplace and the windows. It is just perfect for Christmas, and we got all decorations taken care of. I think she's going to add a little razzle-dazzle here and there, but all the big stuff is taken care of. Our house looks awesome.
The halls have been decked.
The halls have been super decked. And so it's just nice to get that done and just to be able to enjoy it, and that's where we're at right now. We love Christmas. And, it's exciting to be in that time of the year, finally. Today's episode, we're going to cover a few different things. As always, Tyler's going to have his waiver wires for you. We're going to talk a little bit about Week 13 matchups. But, guys, Week 15 is coming. We started talking about Week 15 back in May from the NFL draft.
We are the Week 15 podcast.
Yes, Week 15 podcast. We started talking about Week 15 during the draft. We started talking about it when schedules came out all summer long. We've been planning for this, watching for this, and I'm excited to get into the defensive side of things. We've talked a lot about defensive weaknesses. This week we're going to talk about defensive strengths and how underrated the defense category is, especially in ESPN standard leagues. I'm looking at, we talked about the quarterbacks being underrated last week. When we talked about the discrepancies from number 1 and number 16, let me tell you, the difference between the number 1 defense and the number 13 defense is double. Number 1 has scored twice as many points as number 13 on ESPN standard leagues with defenses.
About 70 points?
Yep, about 70 points. Yep. Almost exactly. 78 exactly.
So you're looking at eight points a week if you have that number 1.
Can you imagine? Look back at this point in your league and recognize how many games you lost by less than 8 points.
Yeah. Could have made the difference.
Could have made the difference, absolutely. And you look at teams that hit right with quarterbacks and defense, you're looking at 15 to 20 points a game extra just by hitting right on those 2 positions. That, kind of take a back seat when we're talking about drafts, when we're talking about those things. And, we talked about defense. I don't remember what episode it was, but we kind of said, slow your roll on defense, draft the defense late. You'll be able to adjust your defense throughout the year. And what I think is interesting is there is not a single defense that is drafted in 100% of ESPN leagues. And that includes the Cowboys, who are at number 1. They've scored 146 points this year. 146 points.
That's wild. I wonder where that falls in the running back category.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at that up real quick
Go ahead.
While you talk.
The Cowboys are the most highly drafted defense at 99%. The Ravens have scored 130 points this year, and they're only at 85%. You go down to the Chiefs at number 5. Only 76% of leagues, ESPN leagues, have drafted the Chiefs absolutely get on the horn with the Chiefs right now. Check your league to see if you can get the Chiefs. The Chiefs in Week 15 are going to play the New England Patriots, who have scored less than any other team in the league. They're averaging less than 2 touchdowns per game. We're watching them throw picks no matter who they put at quarterback. They get sacked, fumbles. It's ridiculous. The worst offense in the league is going to be playing against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 15. Absolutely. Think about that. I'm going to go down the list of worst offenses and best defenses. The Chiefs, lock them in. If you don't have them yet, pause the podcast. Go get them. Go get them. But yeah, number 1 was Cowboys with 146. Number 2, the Ravens with 130. Number 3, the Browns with 113. Number 4, the Bills with 101. And there's a tie for 5th. Both have 96, and that is the Chiefs and the 49ers.
Johnny, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I just pulled this up. So the Cowboys defense have outscored the following players for the season: Cortland Sutton, Matt Stafford, Gus Edwards, George Kittle, Zay Flowers, Ramondre Stevenson, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Waddle, Kenneth Walker. These are all players who have not scored as many points as the Cowboys defense.
Think about that. Let that sink in a little bit. You probably picked your defense in the last or second to last round of your draft, maybe third to last round of their draft, and they are outscoring. Saquon Barkley was a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
He was a first-round pick. That's
a crazy stat.
And I want to think back to, gosh, I bet you I'd have to go into episode 2 to see the strength of schedule. You know what? I think we posted it. I'm going to look on our Instagram. I should have had this prepared. But when you think back to strength of schedule and to be able to compare it to how some of these teams are doing defensively. And here's the weird thing with defensive stats, right? You got to factor in defensive touchdowns, which are by chance most of the time. But when you look at the Cowboys, they have the one guy's 5 pick sixes.
Yeah.
That says something. That says something. When we look at these highest scoring defenses and we look at strength of schedule, the Cowboys coming into the year, they had the 5th hardest schedule coming into the year, yet they're looking at the highest defense. The Bills had the 6th hardest schedule, and they're number 4th on this list.
And they're on the field a lot because Josh Allen loves to just turn the ball over.
Yep. The whole team, they drop passes, they fumble. It's been ridiculous to watch that. But yeah, I'm looking at a lot of these teams. The Browns, they are 3rd in scoring. They had one of the easiest schedules coming into the year. So it's that's not necessarily consistent, but looking into next year and how big of an effect a defense can have for your team, it's pretty impressive. I was kind of mind blown to see the discrepancy, like I said, between number 1 and number 13. So
shout out to Dan Quinn on the podcast today.
Yeah, seriously. Are you a fan of unique handcrafted treasures? Look no further than our own woodworking and collectibles business. At the studio at Benchtop Designs, we specialize in creating exquisite woodworking pieces and have collectibles that will captivate your imagination. Each item is meticulously crafted with passion and attention to detail, making them truly one of a kind. From stunning wooden furniture to custom-made pieces, our collection showcases the beauty of available materials and the artistry through craftsmanship. Whether you're looking to add a touch of elegance to your home or searching for the perfect gift, our woodworking and collectibles are sure to impress. Visit our website at www.benchtopdesigns.studio. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at the studio at Benchtop Designs, or go to our website www.benchtopdesigns.studio. But yeah, as you're looking at Week 15, I want you to think about these offenses, okay? So what I'm about to list off are the 5 worst offenses. And what's really crazy is there are 13 teams, Tyler, that are averaging less than 3 touchdowns a game.
That's pretty sad.
13 teams. When I played, if my offense didn't score 28 points, it was an absolute letdown. Like my offenses were scoring 28 plus, or I was upset.
What's crazy is the NFL has turned into protecting the offense so much. They've taken so much away from the defense, and I feel like defenses are really thriving this year as kind of an outlier.
Yeah. So I'll list the 13 teams real quick, and then we'll focus on the bottom 5. But the following teams are averaging less than 21 points per game. Patriots, Giants, Jets, Panthers, Steelers, Titans, Raiders, Cardinals, Bengals, Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Seahawks. And
There's some big names in there.
What's
man.
crazy is there's playoff teams on that list.
Yeah.
I mean, Pittsburgh they're what, 7-4? Something like that?
Yeah,
playoff
right
contention.
there, yeah.
I think New Orleans is still going to win their division. You have the entire NFC South on this list. Somebody's going to the playoffs.
Well, the Falcons are leading that division right now after their win on Sunday.
Yeah, and they beat the Saints. But all 4 teams in the NFC South are on that list.
That
One of
division's loaded.
Somebody's going to the playoffs out of there. Just crazy to me, man. I mean, Tennessee could go to the playoff. They're at the bottom of the division now. Probably not.
No, I don't think so. Not with Houston on the rise.
Yeah. But, I mean, just 13 teams, though. That's just a crazy statistic to me.
A lot of quarterback injuries on that list as well.
A lot. In fact, I think every team on this list has seen the backup quarterback take at least one snap this year.
I know I heard the Bengals, the Jets. I'm trying to think of who else you said that I
recognize. Every single team on that list has had a backup quarterback in for at least a snap this year. But still crazy. So when I look at the bottom 5, New England is averaging 13.5 points a game. They're going to play the Chiefs in Week 15, and then they're going to play Denver in Week 16. Denver's defense has absolutely come alive after their butt whooping from Miami early on. And then they're going to play Buffalo in Week 17. So Kansas City, Denver, and Buffalo all are going to play a terrible Patriots offense in the playoffs. The Giants are averaging 13.3 points a game. They've actually scored more because they haven't had their bye, but 13.3 points per game, which is the worst. They're going to play New Orleans in Week 15, which I've had that defense in several of my leagues. Then they're going to play Philadelphia in Week 16. And then they're going to play the Rams in Week 17.
All pretty good defenses.
All real good defenses, yeah. We're going to talk about Philly again here in a minute. The Jets are going to play Miami, which their defense has been solid this year. Washington, awful defense. But then they play Cleveland for your championship. So if you got the Browns defense, that's something I highlighted right there. They're going to be playing against the awful New York Jets. However, Aaron Rodgers could be back then.
I don't see how they let him come back.
They're not making the playoffs.
No, they're all but eliminated.
But I could see him just want to make a point. He's a stubborn guy. I don't know. Something to think about. The Carolina Panthers and rookie Bryce Young, they're going to play against Atlanta in Week 15, who I think is a pretty solid defense.
Just fired Reich today.
Yep. Then they play Green Bay in Week 16, and then Jacksonville in Week 17. Pittsburgh has some must-win games in the playoffs here. They're going to be playing against Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and Seattle. No real powerhouse defenses, but I like the Colts defense.
I do want to talk about Pittsburgh for just a minute because they just recently switched their offensive coordinators, like we all know, and they put up a lot of yards this week. Like, that offense looked really, really
much better
good this week.
Much better.
It was over 400 yards of offense. Najee looked good.
On my bench looked great. Yep.
I think Pittsburgh is turning things around.
Yeah, I mean they have every. I mean they're in the playoff contention right now. I think they're either 5 or 6.
Yep.
Definitely a possibility for them. Some other defenses to take note of. San Francisco plays against Arizona in Week 15, and again, like, some of these defenses are available, like, in your leagues. Just check your leagues. And then the defense that I like the most for their playoff run in Weeks 15, 16, 17, the Eagles are going to play against Seattle, then the Giants, then the Cardinals. So Seattle has potential, but they haven't really been getting it right this year. The Giants are terrible, worst points per game in the league, and the Cardinals, you never know what you're going to get there, but I don't think of it as a strong offensive candidate.
No.
So I really like the Eagles. Go check to see if you can get the Eagles in your league to get ready for the playoffs starting in Week 15. This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So.Will.I.Studos is a podcasting brand founded by my wife and I. We plan on launching multiple podcasts this year, each with the intention of promoting positivity and critical thinking. This brand will cover over each podcast. We will have one YouTube channel, So.Will.I.Studos. There will also be one Instagram account that links to all of the others. Follow us on Instagram at So.Will.I 140+pt.studios. We are so excited for this new journey. We can't wait to share with you.
All right, so before the episode today, I wanted to take a deeper dive into some defensive statistics when it came to the run. So who is stopping the run the best and who is stopping the run the worst? And Johnny, I'm going to put you on the spot right here. Who do you believe is the best team in the NFL against the run?
Ravens.
You are incorrect. The correct answer is the Chicago Bears.
Really?
Really.
Interesting.
So when it comes to yards, Bears are number 1. They have given up the fewest rushing yards on the year. When it comes to touchdowns, they are number 5. When it comes to yards per carry, again, number 1.
Wow.
Yeah. Worst defenses against the run. I'll just rattle them off really quick. As far as yardage totals goes, the Broncos are the worst. Then you've got the Cardinals, Giants, Jets, and Bengals. The best defenses against the run in terms of yards are the Bears, then the 49ers, Eagles, Jaguars, and Lions. So some surprises there. Obviously, you don't think of the Bears as stopping the run. They did spend a lot of money in free agency on their 2 middle linebackers this offseason, which, as a Bears fan, I have mentioned on the pod before. But the worst defenses as far in terms of touchdowns against, Panthers are the worst, and then the Giants, Cardinals, Colts, and Seahawks. So we've got the Cardinals and the Giants making the worst list twice so far. In terms of yards per carry, the worst are the Broncos, Bengals, Giants, Bills, and Chiefs. So if you have a running back, a couple of running backs you're trying to decide between, like, I don't know who to play. If they're going up against one of these bad rushing defenses, give them the edge is basically what I wanted to share with our listeners with this segment. Some
guys that just pop in the top of mind, you mentioned Carolina being on that list in terms of touchdowns given up. Tyler Algier, it's just something to think about. He's going to be playing against Carolina in Week 15.
Yeah,
Bijan Robinson looked good this weekend.
He did, but I mean, Algier still gets his touches.
Yep.
Patterson got a couple touches this week. It's like, they don't want to put all that pounding on Bijan in year one.
Right. And like I said, if you're looking for that extra depth, somebody that you plan on having on your bench, but you want on there just in case. I don't know what percentage Tyler Algier is in, but I know it's not 100%. So something to think about there. Just listening to the list that you gave me. In Arizona, you said that they're the worst. They're the worst defense against the run, or one of the worst.
One of the worst. They've made two of the worst lists. Tyler Algier rostered in 46% of ESPN leagues.
Interesting. I know Arizona plays against San Francisco in Week 15.
Ooh, Christian McCaffrey.
Well, Christian McCaffrey's an obvious start, but I'm thinking about the backups because if they're blowing them out, Christian McCaffrey's not playing the second half that close to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whether that backup is Elijah Mitchell or some of the other guys that they've walked in there, just something to think about for Week 15 to build depth. Again, you're picking up guys right now that you hope don't play. But if one of your guys go down in weeks 13 or 14, you got somebody ready because it's that close. It's that close.
We haven't really talked about picking up your backups for the playoffs yet, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. If you've got somebody that you're not really high on and you have like a Christian McCaffrey, it might be worth going out and dropping the guy you don't like for Elijah Mitchell because, if something happens to McCaffrey, which hasn't in the 2 years prior, but, I mean, before that, he was somebody who was tagged as injury prone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I mean, you look, San Francisco goes and scores in the first 4 or 5 drives in the first half. They're beating Arizona 35-0 a half. How much is McCaffrey going to play in the second half? Again, just looking, you're talking a guy that you're hoping stays on your bench, but if your bell cow goes down, worth having. I'm trying to think some of the other teams on that list. You mentioned the Eagles being one of the best running teams. They're going to go against Kenneth Walker. I'm going back to my defensive conversation a minute ago. They're going to play against Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley, and whoever the Cardinals have at running back, if James Conner's healthy or not, But, yeah, those are their team's best assets, I think. So, I love the Eagles' defense going into the playoffs. Just going to say that again. The Eagles' defense, they could be the difference maker. They could add you a couple 4 or 5 points just based on who they're playing. All right, so we mentioned a couple there for Week 15. But go ahead and Tyler, go ahead and give me your waiver wire guys for week 13.
Okay, week 13 for the running backs. I have 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 𝒊𝒅𝒂 listed down. And again, guys, I know these are not names that are going to, wow, I have to go get him. But P. Ryan's been involved. He's catching a lot of passes, and they're not giving Javonte all the work. I mentioned Jaleel McLaughlin a few weeks ago. It's kind of been turned over to P. Ryan the last couple weeks. He's catching a lot of passes. And in most ESPN leagues, it's PPR, half PPR. Those are free points. If a running back takes a handoff and rushes for 10 yards, that's a point. If 𝒊𝒔𝒊𝒏𝒈 catches a ball for no gain, that's a point.
Yep.
We have to add value here with running backs that catch the football. Another guy is Michael Carter. This is kind of a different one, and the Cardinals don't really have a great rest of season strength of schedule. It's pretty brutal, actually, but he did see some work, and if James Conner goes down, he's somebody you can stash. They just recently picked him up off of waivers after he was cut. So it's somebody you might want to look at as a depth piece, but he was involved this past Sunday. At the wide receiver position, New York Giants' Jalen Hyatt had a great game this week, and DeVito, he's
he's getting it done.
I mean, he's serviceable. He's won 2 straight games.
Yeah.
He caught. I should have wrote his stats down, but I'm pretty sure he had over 15 PPR points this past week. And then another guy that's kind of flying under the radar, and we all talk about how bad the Kansas City Chiefs receiving options are. Do me a favor and look up Justin Watson's last few games. 2 weeks ago, this man had 11 targets from Patrick Mahomes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. This past week, I believe he had 6. Don't quote me on that, but I believe his last 2 weeks he has seen 17 targets. And you just want people that catch the ball. You want people on your team who catch the ball from Patrick Mahomes, plain and simple.
So I'm looking at it right now. He had this past week against the Raiders, he had 3 targets, but before that he had 11 against Philly and then 5 against Miami.
I mean, they're struggling for people to catch a football.
Yeah.
So if he's building some rapport with Mahomes, that might be somebody you want to keep an eye on. Maybe don't add him, but just put your little tab as interested, and he'll pop up next time you go to make a waiver wire move. A couple of high-powered offensive tight ends I'm going to talk about today. Tyler Higbee got in the end zone twice this past week. It was the first and second touchdowns of the year for Los Angeles Rams tight ends. So I think it's been a focal point. I think that McVay had been hearing that. And Johnny has talked about, and I think it was 2 weeks ago, how he loves Stafford in the playoffs.
I do. Their run is very good.
So if they're trying to make Higbee a focal point, he's somebody you can add. And then Gerald Everett had a great game last night.
I know, man. I needed him to not have a great game, but
it's unfortunate. But if Herbert's not throwing the ball to Eckler or Keenan Allen, like, it feels like it's going to Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
And he's very, very solid. So a couple of high-powered offensive tight ends for you to take a look at this week.
Good stuff, man. Hey, listen, as I look at week 13, I look at the matchups. There's only a couple that I don't really like. I don't love Seattle going against Dallas this week. We talked about how high-powered Dallas's defense has been. The Seahawks record isn't bad, but they've had some rough games offensively. And Geno, his efficiency has kind of taken a dive over the last couple games this year, and I don't really see them doing great at Dallas. But Seattle's one of those teams that they have so much talent, they could prove me wrong. But Dallas's defense has been great, so I'm not going to really take the risk. I mean, I'm going to play DK because I got him on my roster. If Kenneth Walker was healthy, I'd play him. But outside of that, I mean, I'm probably not going to do too much there. I also really don't like I love all the Dolphins. Tight ends, receiver 1, 2, and 3 going against Washington. Washington's defense, horrendous. Tua looking great. I love their offense. So, yeah, keep that in mind. If you have anybody that plays on the Dolphins, they're worth looking at this week. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of really good even-keeled matchups. I don't like any Packers going against Kansas City. I forgot to mention that. But, San Francisco versus the Eagles, that's going to be a good one. Colts against Tennessee, divisional rivalry. I talked about how I did not like any Chargers going against the Ravens last week. I love the Chargers going against New England this week. So get your Chargers back in the lineup. But yeah, like I said, I mean, Jets and Falcons, like I feel like it's going to be a good game. I feel like that'll be a good matchup. Tampa Bay and Carolina, I mean, I'm picking Tampa Bay, but to see that divisional matchup might be good. Not a whole lot more I have to say about the matchups this week. I think there's going to be some good football.
I do want to point out we were all spoiled this week. In Week 12, there were no buys.
Oh, yeah, Buymageddon again.
However,
almost forgot.
Week 13 is coming, just like winter. And the teams on Week 13 bye are the Buffalo Bills, Chicago Bears, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Minnesota Vikings, the New York Football Giants, and the Baltimore Ravens. So make sure that you are looking ahead at your rosters. Waiver days are usually Wednesdays. So if you need to get some guys added, we talked about some waiver wire moves.
Go back and listen to the whole episode again.
So
that's a lot of buys.
Yeah,
that's a lot of buys.
That is a pretty big buy-apocalypse there in Week 13, just before you are making your playoff run. So just keep that in mind. Take a look at your rosters, add some guys, make sure you've got the depth pieces that you need.
Fact, fun facts. All right, for today's fun facts, we're going to talk about our favorite Christmas movies. Tyler, go ahead.
All right, I have three.
Go ahead. I'll give my top three.
It's so hard.
Sure.
You said let's do our favorite Christmas movie, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm gonna give you three. Number 3, Christmas Chronicles. Man, I love that movie.
Oh, dude, it's great.
I love that movie.
It's great.
Number 2, Christmas Vacation.
Classic.
So good, so good. Number 1, I will say it has a slight edge over the rest, and that's Home Alone. Kids love it. I love it. Great movie. Even number 2 is good, which is rare. So that's my top 3.
It's fair. I'm going to go, and it's tough, because we actually made like a whole family portrait in our house that has our 6 favorite movies, which is fun. But if I had to narrow it down to my top 3, I would say at number 3, I have The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Love it. It's a Christmas time. Like, I just get hyped in Whoville. I'm feeling it. We got the decor in there. I love it. Number 2, going to be Home Alone for me. Love Home Alone.
Yeah, it's so good.
Classic. Number 1, just because it's like, it's just so classic to me, is Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Santa falling off the roof, like all that good stuff. And anytime the boys have any questions about Santa Claus, I refer to Tim Allen's experience in the Santa Claus. So
Ralphie not making either top
number
3.
Number 4 for me would be The Christmas Story for
That's
sure.
Probably number 4 for me as well.
Yeah, I love it. The boys love it. You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. That's what they call it. Can we watch You'll Shoot Your Eye Out? Yeah, love that stuff. Good stuff. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying this time of year, both with Christmas festivities and as it gets down to the wire here in the fantasy football season. Hope you're making the playoffs. We're ready to get you that W. This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So will I.